Business notice number 2, standing in the name of Justine Davis, to move a motion concerning improving decision-making, integrity, transparency and accountability in our Parliament.
I call the member for Johnston.
Madam Speaker, I move that this Assembly recognise the critical importance of improving decision-making, integrity, transparency and accountability in our Parliament, and to that end commits to the following measures: re-establishing scrutiny committees that allow for public submissions and thorough review of bills before the Parliament, limiting government-to-government questions, Dorothy Dix's in the chamber to a maximum of 2 out of every 3 parliamentary sitting days, and exploring pathways to enhance public engagement and participation in the legislative process, including through citizens' juries. Madam Speaker, in 2017, the government introduced scrutiny committees based on the recommendations of its own Opening Up Parliament to the People Committee and also the recommendations of the subsequent Standing Orders Committee. At that time, the Chief Minister said scrutiny, accountability and transparency is a crucial feature of a healthy democratic society. It protects against corruption and wrongdoing and produces better decision-making and greater benefits to the community. Scrutiny committees are used in the Queensland Parliament, which, like the NT, is a unicameral chamber. That is, it only has one house. This means that we do not have the checks and balances and the accountability that's brought by having 2 chambers. This need for checks and balances is even more important when we have a Parliament where one party has the overwhelming numbers. To ensure good democratic process, we need to ensure that all voices are heard. We saw the value of the scrutiny committees in this Parliament firsthand during the 13th Assembly. Their presence significantly enhanced our legislative process, allowing for a thorough examination of government actions and policies. Between 2017 and 2020, the scrutiny committees reported on 81 bills, received 1,179 submissions and recommended changes to 56% of bills. And of the 194 amendments recommended, the Assembly accepted 166, 86% of them. We heard over and over again in this election that people were sick of politicians that did not trust them to act in their interests. We have the opportunity to change that in this chamber. Scrutiny committees are one way to ensure that our leaders are acting in the best interests of the people. They provide a structured forum for examining legislation, for enabling input from all stakeholders, and to consider both the intended and unintended consequences of any laws before this Parliament. If we had had the opportunity to refer the 5 bills that we have been asked to vote for on these 2 weeks, I believe we would be making better, stronger, more informed law. I welcome the CLP's announcement that they will re-establish the Legislative Scrutiny Committee from the next sitting of Parliament. As proposed by the opposition on the first day of this Parliament, I would like to see an added member from the crossbench to ensure that it is not dominated by government members and can properly counterbalance the chamber. I did hear the Leader of Government Business advise this would be considered, and I'm looking forward to his response on this. I believe that re-establishing this committee is a clear commitment to a more accountable government, one that values the voices of the people it serves, and I look forward to serving on this committee with fellow members of Parliament and being able to enhance our democratic process and increase trust in government. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I also move that this Parliament limit government-to-government question times in this chamber to a maximum of 2 out of every 3 sitting days. This is a crucial step towards ensuring transparency, accountability and the integrity of our parliamentary processes. As you may all know, the term Dorothy Dixer originates from a popular advice columnist who was known for answering questions posed by readers, but questions she had written to herself. In our parliamentary context, a Dorothy Dixer is a question posed by a government backbencher to a government minister, typically designed to showcase the government's policies and achievements rather than to scrutinise them. While it's important for us to celebrate successes, we must also hold ourselves accountable and engage in robust, open dialogue. In 2016, our Legislative Assembly introduced a sessional order aimed specifically at reducing the frequency of these Dorothy Dixers in the interest of fostering a more balanced and democratic discourse. This order clearly prohibited such questions on one day of each sitting week, ensuring that we prioritise genuine scrutiny over self-congratulatory rhetoric. Regrettably, this sessional order was not reintroduced at the beginning of the 14th Assembly or the 15th Assembly in October 24. This absence has created a situation where question time has the potential to devolve into a platform for ministers to promote their achievements rather than engaging in the critical examination that our democratic process demands. By reintroducing this sessional order, we can reaffirm our commitment to good governance. We acknowledge that the role of Parliament is not just to celebrate successes, but to engage in thorough oversight, ask tough questions and address hard truths. The people of the Northern Territory deserve a government that is willing to be held accountable, and limiting Dorothy Dix's is a meaningful way to facilitate that accountability. In addition, this motion would encourage a more dynamic and effective use of our question time. By reserving it primarily for the crossbench and opposition members, we empower those who represent the voices of all of our constituents, those who are often on the front lines witnessing firsthand the impact of our policies and decisions. We need to bring these questions to government and compel it to provide thoughtful and comprehensive responses. And in addition, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I ran on a platform of doing politics differently and of bringing community voice into the Parliament. I believe this House should belong to the people, and I believe we need to approach our work of lawmaking for the Northern Territory with the community, the whole community, at its heart. It heartens me to hear the CLP say in this chamber over and over again that they believe in listening to community and doing what the community has told them they want. This is what I believe in too. And I know that to ensure that people's views, all people, are considered and represented, we need good process. Process beyond mainstream media and privately funded campaigns, often representing vested and special interests. We need processes to make sure that there are pathways for people to truly talk about what matters to them and what their ideas are for addressing these concerns. The CLP talk a lot in this chamber about their mandate based on the people that voted for them. To be clear, according to the NTEC, the CLP received approximately 48.9% of the primary vote. Our actual mandate in this House is to represent 100% of the Northern Territory. We need to put whatever processes we can in place to make sure that we are doing that. I urge this chamber to commit to exploring pathways to enhance public engagement and participation in the legislative process. This can include building on existing mechanisms such as Youth Parliament and Have Your Say, and developing new processes which have been used in other governments, both local, state, territory and national, to bring people into Parliament in a meaningful way. This can include processes of deliberative democracy, citizen panels and citizen juries. I recognise these may be new concepts for people in this chamber, and I'm happy to provide links to resources and information on this, including an excellent resource that I have a copy of here if anyone wants, an introduction to deliberative democracy for members of Parliament. In brief, a citizens' assembly or a citizens' jury is a geographically representative cohort to ensure that the voices of the whole community are heard. It brings people together to consider issues of public importance, provides them with information to make decisions, facilitates a process to make recommendations, and then uses those recommendations to inform decision making. In our own communities, both Darwin and Palmerston councils have used this model to help them develop strategic plans and develop their budgets. Throughout Australia, these models have been used in South Australia for over a decade. In Victoria and New South Wales, there are examples of citizens' assemblies and citizens' juries at the local and state government levels, facilitating effective and inclusive decision making. Internationally, many parliaments use this model to great effect, including the Scottish Parliament, the Irish Parliament and the German Parliament, and describe it as enhancing their decision-making processes. These examples illustrate the power of bringing citizens into the fold, ensuring that legislative actions are grounded in the voices of those who we serve. One of the things that I love about the Northern Territory is that we have a strong belief in doing things differently. We have the opportunity to make this Parliament a beacon of democratic innovation, an example of how to truly connect with our communities, listen to their voices and act upon their needs. In closing, I invite you to join with me in committing to this vision of deliberative democracy and create the structures necessary for meaningful public engagement. Together, I believe we can reshape our legislative processes to reflect the diverse voices of the whole Northern Territory, and I urge every member of this chamber to join me in this endeavour. Thank you.